Hello, good evening and welcome to On The Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. We are in the midst of the pandemic. Coronavirus has permeated across all the communities of Uganda. There's no amount of contact tracing that can help now. Hospitals are overwhelmed. Quite a number of people are suffering with the disease in their homes. And we have lost Ugandans. Is there end in sight of this disease that has not only ravaged Uganda, but the entire world? Tonight I speak to a medical doctor, but also the former president of the Forum for Democratic Change, retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. I thank you for joining us and welcome the show, Dr. Kizza Besigye. We are so grateful that you have given us time to speak to you on this matter when Ugandans are facing an existential threat brought by an invisible virus called COVID-19. I wonder what you've been able to see as a medical doctor, as a leader, and also as a Ugandan where we are right now. Maybe you can give us some relief, or maybe you can scare us the more that things are bad as a medical doctor.
Thank you very much. A great pleasure always to share views on this platform. And a very good evening to all of you, wherever you are joining us from. And my sympathies, heartfelt sympathies to all those that have lost dear ones as a result of this pandemic, but also as a result of natural processes. We've been losing many people. And I also sympathize with all those who are, many families that are looking after sick people at this time in the very difficult socio-economic environment. Yes, Patrick, the pandemic has been with us now for 1.5 years. This is July the 1st, and the attack was declared as a public health, world notified of a public health emergency on the 30th of January 2020. So it's a 1.5 years with this pandemic. Indeed, it has caused a lot of disruption worldwide. And I must say that Africa as a whole has been fairly less impacted up to now, if you compare with what has happened elsewhere. And I think that is by the mercies of God. But now the second wave is not as kind as the first wave. And I attribute the low impact of the first wave to two things mainly. And of course, this being a new virus, research is ongoing in all areas. But what is clear is that the virus that got out of China and ravaged the world in the first wave was not as aggressive to the Africans as it was elsewhere. And this generally depends on the immunity of the communities that are affected. It means that I suspect, and this again will only have to be confirmed through empirical data and research, that the body immunity of the African communities in Africa, not blacks, it is nothing to do with the race, because black people elsewhere were ravaged.
It's the environment.
It's the environment in which we live. It's the kind of pathogens, infective agents that we interact with in this environment that helps us develop
resistance.
The resistance that we use when new infective agents come. And so I think that we were less vulnerable to the first virus that came out of China. Now, secondly, Africa has a very young population. You'll find that the population of Africa, like in Uganda, above 60 years is about 3%. In the developed world, it's 20% and above. And that is the population that has been getting more serious disease and where deaths are most. And this is again because in the older population, there is less ability of the bodies to fight against infection. The body immunity lowers as we age. And so, in the young communities like ours, even when death was going on, it was in that small population, and also in those who are made more vulnerable by other diseases before the COVID arrives in their body. Those who have heart and blood saturation problems, those who have problems with their respiratory system, maybe are asthmatic, maybe have chronic lung problems, those who are diabetic, those who have maybe cancer and are on treatments that lower their immunity and things like that.
We have seen, Dr. Besigye, young people who seem to be physically fit and robust that have died in this second wave of the pandemic. Is that maybe on the account that there could be people who have an underlying medical problem and they are not aware, or probably this disease, unlike the first variant, is actually not looking at the elder ones, even looking at the young and robust, even if you're healthy, because it looks like those people have also died.
It's a bit of both. First of all, being young and appearing healthy doesn't mean you are healthy. To assess and ascertain that one is healthy, you need to actually know the person in more detail and have examination certify your health. So you may have somebody apparently looking normal, but when they have...
Actually, that's why I think the footballers in the Premier League, they have to undergo a medical, even though they look like to be the best.
And even when they do, as you know, some have died on the field. So, yes, there is now a more aggressive, and this was to be expected, frankly. Again, it is shocking that some people think that these variants would not come and not have prepared. This has been a concern because everybody knows that, or at least those who have knowledge of medical science, know that viruses change their nature all the time, and especially in the bodies when they are confronted with
drugs
reaction that attacks them, they change their nature, they mutate. And the mutants or variants, as they are now more better known, can become less aggressive or can become more aggressive.
So let me take you to the situation in Uganda, because we have reached a level where you cannot even do any contact tracing. Considering how the virus is attacking us and the response that we have from the government and all the responders, are we not losing the battle against the virus?
No, the battle, we lost it very early on after the virus arrived in our country. You see, and this is what we have been expressing concern on over and over, that there were two important things that should have been done that were never done, that have caused the situation to get out of control the way it is in Uganda.
And what are these two things?
The first is that in managing a pandemic, you need high level of trust of the population to the institutions that are managing the pandemic. Social capital is extremely important in managing the pandemic. People to believe in what you are saying, that you are acting in their interest. Now, so the institutions that manage a pandemic are critical. To have the right institutions, to have the right framework of the law in which your actions are based. And we advised right at the onset that a pandemic of this magnitude that is going to impact the public safety of the country, the economic and social livelihood of the whole country, required a national response that is managed through the involvement of all
but
people.
Wait a minute, Dr. Besigye, because we have seen the most advanced economies brought down on their knees by the virus. They have all this preparation, they have the best healthcare system. The United States has lost 600,000. Italy was brought on their knees. Today in the United Kingdom, they are suffering. In fact, probably it is only the pariah states, in my view, seem to be authoritarian regimes that have done better. Really, it appears this disease, there's no country that can guard against the high transmissibility of coronavirus.
You see, as I have endeavored to inform you, that those developed countries had a totally different situation. One, that they had a lot of aged people who were more vulnerable to getting severe disease and death. Secondly, they have a different environment altogether. In winter, and when it attacked in January, it was the northern winter. Everybody is indoors in air conditioned and where air circulates internally. And that is the perfect condition in which in a very short time the virus can reach very far. They have mass transportation. They move underground in those trains. Millions of people per day. They are in the airports or in controlled air environments. And so, you know, to equate the situation of Europe to Uganda, say because they had that problem, we ourselves, we should expect to die also like them because whether we have a government or not, we are going to die anyway. That is, you know, being very, very, I think, fatalist, you know, saying there is nothing we can do. No, there is a lot that we can do. And God has already been gracious to us in the sense that, first of all, our people don't live in environments like those, where in winter everybody is huddled inside. And the coldness also causes its own problems.
You know, I saw something, Dr. Besigye, to that extent, where people are saying, look, why are Africans so resistant? And they are talking about the resistance, they're talking about the age, they're talking about the food we eat, they're talking about the pathogens we live with. But this variant has shown us that, look, we are equally vulnerable.
Yeah, so let's, you know, be more systematic in analyzing the situation. So the first things first. I said that part of the reason we are where we are is the institutional management. This does not mean that, you know, where they had institutional management, they did not have other problems. They definitely had other problems, like I have talked about, which caused their problems to be worse. But what caused our own problem to be worse? In spite of having that body immunity that could have saved us in the first phase. The fact that we had a young population that also saved us. Why are we in this problem? So, and I'm saying I'm tracing these two factors. One, that institutional management that would bolster public confidence and acceptance of what the public institutions are telling them. Once you lose that, once you lose the social capital of the management body that you are no longer believed in, then your advice and control measures will not be effective. And that is one of the areas that was a major weakness here. That first of all, the institutions, well, first of all, we didn't involve everybody in the planning process. This is why I say, and the Constitution of Uganda emphasized this, that when you have a situation that endangers the public safety of everybody, that impacts severely on the livelihoods of people, that then a state of emergency needs to be declared and managed in a manner that has been laid out in the Constitution. That route that is provided by the Constitution, which we believe is the appropriate route, that Parliament, which is the representation of all Ugandans, is seized with the matter to say we have an emergency in the country. This is what we propose to do to manage it, and we all comment on those proposals. And Parliament crystallizes, approves a plan, approves a budget for it, and monitors how it is implemented. We chose not to go that route. Instead, the institutions that, the framework that was used was under what is called the Public Health Act of 1935. A colonial law that has not even been updated, which is still talking about colonial institutions, which places the responsibility of managing a public health emergency under that law in the hands of the chief medical officer of Uganda. Now, that office no longer exists.
Okay.
But the danger that, so even that was not followed. In spite of relying on that law, they did not follow what could be equivalent to the institutions established under that law. Instead, they created highly political and partisan institutions. The Office of the Prime Minister, the RDCs. And then gave directives, now straight directives from presidential directives. Enforcement of presidential directives, recruit LDUs. Immediately, get LDUs, put them in uniform, train them overnight, give them arms, and let them enforce what has been said. That further undermined the trust and belief of the people in what was being done. The brutality that unfolded under those LDUs, attacking people in their homes, attacking people on the streets, killing people, recklessly, and so on. So rather than people now continue to follow what you are saying, now fear takes over. So the institutional management was wrong.
Okay, let me change.
Secondly,
yes,
is the plan to manage the pandemic from the word go up, to have an overall plan that will manage the problem. And this plan to be understood by everybody. If I asked you, and the media people should be the most informed because you are interacting with public information all the time. If I asked you what our plan is in managing the pandemic, I doubt that you would be able to even vaguely say what it is.
Lockdown, and more lockdown.
Yes. So the absence of such a plan, and even then, I remember on your program, At that time, I was asked about this and I said we need a 6-point plan. And I tried to point out those 6 points. And those points are still valid up to today. But you cannot tell that there was a plan, for example, which if I asked you what our plan was, to get the health sector immediately showered up, to deal with the pandemic, that the increase of, the facilities that are there, the increase of the medical workers, the increase of and the facilities are now what we are suffering with, the oxygen, the lack of beds, what plan was there? And you don't find anybody, who can tell you, certainly not the members of parliament. And so the absence of institutions, the absence of a plan is what led to, a part of the plan would have been how you monitor.
Okay.
How you monitor
Dr. Besigye, I can understand that, but we cannot keep agonizing. I know you're not in leadership, but you're a leader in your own way. So the disease is with us. It is in the communities. The virus is ravaging Ugandans. And by the way, remember you saying that coronavirus is going, almost everybody will get part of it. And somehow it looks like it is coming to pass. So what do we do now?
You see, again, Ugandans must understand that health, and especially public health, is a public good. It's one where we must make our collective choices together on how to deal with it, which can only be responded to by our collective resources. We must gather our resources to respond together. And so, it's not something you respond to individually and manage. And that's why I am a very, very strong advocate of universal health care. In fact, even before talking about universal education, universal this, universal that, because all other public goods, you enjoy them
if you're healthy,
by first of all having health. And so health is the most important, I think, of all, and most primary of all the public goods. And health can only be administered and managed by public institutions, the government. So this is why it's critical that you have a government that can respond. If a government is not up to the job, then you get what we have now. So you are saying what can be done. What can be done? What must be done is to, and it starts with us. This is why I say that we cannot just keep on, because a government will do what is demanded of it. If there is no demand side, the government will not do anything. You've seen the Minister of Health in the UK resign simply because a picture of him leaked to the public where he was intimate with one of his colleagues without a mask. Now, he had breached his own rule of social distancing. And now that the public knew, he had to resign immediately. Why? Because he knows that that is totally unacceptable in the public. Not because if it had not leaked, he would be, very busy doing his job. So it's not that he felt he's ashamed of what he did. It's because he knows the consequences in the public are high. So the solution must be ourselves, Ugandans.
Vigilance of the Ugandan people.
Ugandans. How seriously we take public management, government to be.
Okay, hold on to your point, Dr. Kizza Besigye. You're going to take a break, and on the spot, we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, and we're talking about the impact of the pandemic on Ugandans. I'm talking about coronavirus. Dr. Besigye, I've heard some people say for every known case of COVID-19, there could be 90 or 100 or more of invisible cases. They say Zambia, for every case, there are 90 invisible ones. And Kenya, they say for every case, there could be 200, and some countries even more. And now we have over 70,000 people who have tested positive. It is almost impossible that those people have not infected other Ugandans. So if we are to use that kind of analysis, then maybe people who are sick are in millions in our country.
Without doubt, and maybe let me respond to that by first putting to bed the point I was making about the primacy of public management, government service, the deliverer of public goods, the primacy of it. Because, and you know, why Ugandans must take responsibility. Because I have shifted my attention. There has always been criticism of government. But we criticize government when we don't do enough ourselves to make sure that they feel us. If they can get away, if they can steal our money and get away with it, they surely will steal it. Like I have said, even the British, it's not that they are less corrupt. It's because their public is more vigilant, more assertive, and that you will not do something wrong in the public office and get away with it.
So how do you build that civic competence that, you know...
That's what is and must be the duty of every Ugandan who cares for the country. And I would like to invite all Ugandans to care for the common good, because you'll never, including those who are doing terrible things when in government, it is because they are simply foolish. You will never be well off in a sea of desperate people. And that's why you see, you know, you go abroad in many countries, you'll find the rich don't have walls around their houses. You know, they are not threatened by those who are on the streets. Here, you must build, every person who has anything will live in a prison. Put up high walls, even put sengenge on top of the walls like in Ruzira. That is because you think you can be well off, have food, have everything, have a TV, have so on in the house, when the person outside is totally bad off. So it's foolish even for those in government and who manage or mismanage public affairs and selfishly apply resources to themselves. But it's more incumbent upon us to make sure that that foolishness of theirs does not continue, does not obtain all the time, and that we have no responsibility ourselves.
Whose job is it to build a vibrant citizenry, to have a higher civic competence among the population of Uganda?
It is yours, it is mine. And this is why I have been extremely uncharitable to those who consider themselves elites, who have been to school, who have degrees, who have awareness, who have traveled and see how other countries are organized, and are not doing their bit to make sure that those around them are as conscious about public civic responsibilities as they themselves are. In fact, they themselves don't exhibit any civic responsibility. So this is a duty of you and me. And since we have betrayed that responsibility. It's the reason we must talk widely to everybody. You'll find somebody, and this is why for me, I don't put a lot of, value, premium to people with academic qualifications. I think there are people who are far more intelligent, who have simply not had the opportunity to have certificates and to go to formal education. Those people in the public are the ones I am looking at now, who can help. Because we ourselves, who would be doing that, we are really foolish, just like those in government. So that, coming back now to your question, that is a matter where management of a problem like this and similar public goods problems must start. That we must be assertive, we must be demanding, and we must ensure that we assert our will. So if we did this point of planning, we would have made sure that we are part of the plans of those planning, that Parliament does what is in our interest, that Parliament demands. We would have been agitating, and among the plans, among the critical plans that should have been made is the plan for surveillance, for tracing how that problem continues. And that is, as I have said, where we lost it. We did not have a plan for tracing how the thing is moving. Instead, we focused on looking for just those people who had come from abroad and maybe what contacts they had. But you must have a plan for popular general surveillance, tracing, to see whether it has emerged, especially in our case, where all our borders are porous. It's not that you will only depend on people coming through the airport or through Malaba. People are crossing everywhere into the country. So you must have a very effective, robust surveillance plan that guides you to know how or where the pandemic is moving. That we did not have. Secondly, we allowed, by a policy failure, the importation to continue formally, officially, through the borders, by locking everybody up and allowing trucks to move 24/7 throughout the night. No curfew. Trucks were moving from the ocean in Mombasa, where the virus would land from China, from ships that bring goods from China. They would bring it to Mombasa. Then the truck drivers pick it from there and bring it to every town of Uganda. And then we made the policy blunder of now putting the election that picked the virus from those towns and now dispersed it into the country. And so that's how we lost very early on the monitoring, the ability to follow and to manage the transmission. Now, once that is lost, then of course these contact tracing and so on are useless. And now it is in the community mutating. We are now talking about mutants from abroad, but we have our own mutants here.
That we don't know, maybe.
That we don't know. Another plan, of course, which we have been, again, would have been part of that, is to research on the virus itself, continuous research, sampling of the virus, and analyzing the structure of the virus. Genome sequencing, which is, I think, already done here by the Uganda Virus Research Institute. But again, these institutes and these bodies, in fact, we must thank the assistance we have received from foreigners because they have not been maintained by our own effort. Uganda Virus Research Institute has been maintained largely by the Americans. And they did so because they were worried about Ebola, us taking Ebola to them and so on and so forth. So the fact that we simply lack our own, and this is why, I feel so frustrated when I hear people saying we are busy, we are about to get vaccine, I don't know. What? This does not happen simply overnight. You must invest in long-term plans, have institutional mechanisms. If you look at the institutions that manage research in our country, it's a joke. They are all fragmented and so on and so forth.
I want to know from your perspective, as a medical doctor, but also as a leader. We have our neighbors in the south, the Republic of Tanzania. They seem not to have panicked or even feared the disease as we do, and looks like life is moving as normal. Did we panic?
No, there was no panic, but we didn't do anything. Maybe if we panicked, we would have done something. So, yes, they didn't have a severe lockdown like we did, but they actually took greater steps than we did in managing, in dealing with how the virus spreads. They too, I am not very privy to how exactly everything they did, but I know that, for example, they imposed very strict and communicated that message to the people, and they got it. Very strict measures of how public places were used, markets, shops, and so on. Hand wash, the soaps, management of the soaps, the hand washing, and so on. They were very effective on that. They were effective on communicating what people needed to do to boost their own immunity. And that is very critical. We never did any of all that. You see, so when you lock down people, you have not provided for their welfare. You are actually weakening their bodies. And that's what is happening. Partly what is driving a terrible situation now of the pandemic is the weakened bodies of Ugandans over the last 1 year, because their livelihoods were disrupted very seriously. So they have no incomes. Many lost their jobs. There has been no attention to how they live. Many were thrown out of their homes because they could not pay rent. The stress levels in Uganda have been on the roof. And stress has a direct impact on body immunity. So what we did with the lockdown was weaken the people, not put in place measures that would lessen the risk after the lockdown, because you would have had, that would have been in the plan. After we are locking down to do what? To make sure that after lockdown, people don't go back and crowd in Chikuvo and in the markets and in this. This is how we are going to organize them, that the offices will be organized in this way. And you have a plan to ensure that that happens, not just talk about it and leave it there. Comparing countries can be quite misleading, that because Tanzania did not do this, they didn't appear to have had a very serious problem. Of course, now the problem there is also as...
But look, Dr. Besigye, if the flu surveillance team, and if you look at the data that we have, every year we lose almost 30,000 people due to pneumonia and flu-like problems. We lose every day 19 women due to pregnancy-related complications. We lose quite a big number to road accidents. We lose so many to HIV/AIDS and tuberculosis and stuff like that. Yes, we have lost about 800 people to COVID-19. But when you look at the people who are dying daily due to other complications, the number is so huge. And that's why some people are saying, maybe we panicked.
You see, again, Patrick, it's really totally misleading to compare numbers without any reliable data. And there is no data in Uganda that anybody can go by to tell how many people have died of the pandemic. Nobody. Certainly, not 800 people that, they are talking about how many? Of the 800.
Or thereabout, yes.
It's not that. Because those 800 are the ones who died after a positive PCR test. A positive test that confirms they have a virus in their body. So let's first analyze that. In Uganda, we have, since the pandemic began, done only 1 million and about 100,000 tests. 1.1 tests could have been done maybe on about 300,000 people, because many tests are done on each individual. You know that whoever goes to meet Mr. Museveni must be tested. So his cabinet is always tested every week. You know, the ones he meets when he goes to Kololo, all of them must be tested. And they are the same people that come back the next time and so on. The truck drivers, who constitute the greatest majority of the 1 million tests, the majority of that are truck drivers. Those truck drivers are crisscrossing the borders. So
there's multiple tests for
them. So, yes, so the numbers of tests we have carried out are insignificant in understanding who has COVID, who has died of COVID in this country. Let me give you the comparison. For every 1,000 Ugandans, we have done about 26 tests. If you divide 1.1 million by 243 million people, you get 26 to 1,000. Rwanda, compared to us, has carried out 109 tests per 1,000. So they are like 5 times, they have tested like 5 times more. We are not the worst. I think Nigeria has tested maybe less than 10 tests per 1,000. Although it's a huge country with a lot of resources, they have not tested. So we are not the worst, but 26 in 1,000 is totally insignificant. If you look at Denmark, for example, they have tested 5,700 tests per 1,000 people.
500 maybe.
5,700 per 1,000 people. In other words, they have done tests that are nearly 6 times their population.
Okay.
So when we talk about testing 26 per 1,000, it's a total joke to use that.
And among those, there could be those who have tested several times because of the
line of that's the point I'm saying. That's the point I'm saying. That's the point I said earlier. But even when you take the gross number, that's what it translates into. And you want to use that to determine how many people have died, how many people are sick. The tests they are carrying out now show that about 17% of those tested become positive. That's the current situation of those they are testing. So if we take that as the yardstick, it means that for every 1 million, we have 170,000 who are positive. Yet, the figures we have in Uganda since the pandemic began is about 60,000, I think, who are positive. So these figures, I don't even spend my time looking at them. They are totally insignificant and should be treated, with the utmost disregard. They should be totally disregarded in determining how we proceed with this pandemic. Certainly, we should have done better in that area. Some of this, again, is caused by the budgetary constraints.
Budgetary constraints are the choices we make, because we borrowed last year nearly $2 billion that we borrowed last year for COVID, which was over and beyond what was in the budget. This was for the emergency. Borrowing from World Bank, borrowing from IMF, borrowing from here in the, Stanbic, borrowing domestically for supplies and so on. We borrowed nearly $2 billion. Where did it go? And we were looking, and we were making noise. This is why I blame Ugandans more than even those who steal our money. Because we were making this noise, talking. But people are just docile. Nearly 1 trillion, 1,000 billion was taken to Mr. Museveni's home. And the country should demand. And it was said to be for secret work, classified expenditure. It's on record, it's in records of parliament.
But sometimes you cannot just say 1 trillion taken to Mr. Museveni's home in what way? Because
physically.
Dr. Besigye.
Physically, yes, I'm telling you. In fact,
you're making a very explosive kind of an allegation.
It's not an allegation.
Money physically taken to Mr. Museveni.
It is not an allegation. It passed through Parliament. And I think it's part of why, when Parliament saw all these money trafficking through them, they also wanted to grab something. So it's on record. I can bring you the records of Parliament passing these supplementaries. And you are saying, so how it is eventually, once it is approved, how it is transported. Actually, a lot of that was transported in physical cash, in billions from Bank of Uganda.
But Parliament, when they appropriate money to a particular activity as well, they just don't appropriate money.
So this is the activity. We are in the middle of a pandemic. Doctors don't have protective equipment. There is no oxygen in the hospitals. Doctors are not being paid their allowances. The doctors are very few. But you have taken 1,000 billion. Ugandans are starving. Only 59 billion was given to buy food. 59 billion to buy food for starving Ugandans. 1,000 billion is taken to the home for secret work. What secret work is there during a pandemic that needs so much money when everybody else is starving? When, children are dying in homes without food. When doctors are dying, do you know how many doctors we have lost? Because of lack of protective equipment. All these people who are dying of lack of oxygen. But money went to State House. Can Ugandans know? This is our money. Can Ugandans know what secret work demanded all that money to go to State House? Even much more went to defense from the borrowed money of COVID. I think about 4 trillion or more went to defense. Again, it's reflected in documents that we have for classified work during COVID. We are not at war with any of our neighbors that there is a secret mission being organized.
For any money that is appropriated through the right channels, where you have people's representatives debating about the money and where it's supposed to go and accept it in a legal way, I wonder how you can come again and challenge it, because
yes,
the people's representatives
but you see,
have chosen to do so.
You see, that is why I say Ugandans are foolish. It is our foolishness that allows such a thing to happen. In another place, you would never take 1 trillion shillings to somebody's home when people are dying in their homes. Public money, borrowed money. It would never happen. It is our collective foolishness that allows that kind of thing to happen. That members of parliament are there passing such totally ridiculous things that they can be passed through parliament.
Yeah, but
having done so,
the money that is passed is not going to go to President Museveni's personal purse.
That's what it does.
Well,
when it goes,
if along the way it's misused,
no,
it's not given for him.
No, again, Patrick, don't justify our foolishness. You see, we should have the ability to follow and find out that classified work in the State House. What is it? Parliament has a duty of oversight, of checking what is classified.
But you know,
but there is no, there has up to now.
we have the Auditor General.
Yes,
we have the accountability committees of Parliament, which, by the way, are headed by members of the opposition politicians.
And you, as a fourth estate member, should know that all these huge sums of classified expenditure are not audited up to now.
You were once a Minister of Internal Affairs.
And that's why
you were once a State Minister of Internal Affairs in this country.
Yes.
So you know what it means to have classified expenditure.
And that's why I'm telling you that classified expenditure itself must be justified, must be audited.
So
you cannot borrow money for a pandemic.
During your time, was there abuse? During your time, was there abuse of such money? You were a Minister of Internal Affairs?
You cannot borrow. Well, I left government in 1990.
No, I'm only reminding you, sir, and those viewers, that you were once State Minister of Internal Affairs.
Yes. So let's deal with what is here now. We can talk about what happened in the 2 years that I was in the Ministry of Internal Affairs at another time. There is much more critical situation that requires our urgent attention now.
Okay, Dr. Besigye, hold on to your point, because On the Spot is taking a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, and we're discussing about the impact of the pandemic on the lives of Ugandans, their lives and their livelihoods. We now know the government has come up with a plan to give the vulnerable people 100,000 shillings each, and they have given a category of the vulnerable people, even though quite a number of Ugandans think they're also vulnerable. Dr. Besigye, I know you've been critical, but getting out 100,000 to the people who are thought to be most vulnerable in a situation like this is a good thing.
Anything that goes to the people is a wonderful thing. But, you know, again, it is coming out of what plan? You know, it is 100,000 for how long? And for how long have we planned to support those people? And this 100,000 is to cover what? You see, like I have said, Patrick, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. That's your plan. And this is exactly, because how do you...
There has been a plan, there has been an analysis of people who are vulnerable. They have looked at what they have.
No, come on.
And they have come out with a price, with a figure.
No, let's understand. A lockdown was announced, I think about 12 days or so back. A lockdown is a plan that I'm going to lock down the country. But it cannot be the only one. So, at the very time of the lockdown, the country should have been told what follows. How do people survive? You can imagine if I took you to prison now, I took you to Ruzira, and you spend there 2 weeks, as I am considering how you will eat. Will you still be there? Because that's exactly what happened. If you acknowledge that people feed hand to mouth, what they collect that day is what they eat and their families. You have abruptly announced at night that from tomorrow, nobody gets out. You've blocked all public transport. You've blocked. So, what happens to the food that day? How are people expected to have survived 2 weeks now, and you are talking about another week in front, while you organize something that is totally messy, that you don't even want to get to engage in, how that money will get to the vulnerable. It's still anybody's, guess how this can be achieved.
You know,
So
I feel like the managers of Uganda's affairs of Uganda also, I think you should think about the situation they have, because you have to protect the lives, but you also need to protect the livelihoods. You have a pandemic, so can they just say you go? And you also have a budget that is small.
You see, you plan using the resources you have. If they rolled out the 100,000, and I have told you that even a wave like we are riding now does not happen as an earthquake, that you are sitting and somehow it erupts. No, because you have been monitoring, you are seeing that the infections are on the rise, you are studying what is causing that rise, and you know that you are getting into this crisis. So you should plan before you tell the country that you are locking it down. And once you lock it down, you must have a plan that goes immediately alongside that. You don't lock it down and then go to look for money. You don't lock it down and then plan what they will need. It's the discussion of 20 kilos of posho, I don't know what. I have been saying today, the month ended yesterday. How are people supposed to pay rent? Have you heard anybody talk about that? Because you have killed their ability to pay rent. So what happens? And this is exactly what happened last year. We are not even dealing with something that is completely strange. This happened in the other lockdown. And the troubles that arose from the other lockdown are still unresolved. You now create another one. So we cannot, Ugandans, we cannot simply take this as a normal thing. We are going to get finished. You saw how they locked down the schools. First of all, the schools had been locked for 14 months in a row. But that is again, part of the discrimination. Ordinary Ugandans are out of school, their children are in school. Those who are in those international and other special schools have never stopped their classes. Their classes have never been locked. They wake up every day and go to class through their technology. Yours are out of school for 14 months without a plan of what is needed for them to be back in school. Eventually, when you think that maybe things have calmed down again because you are not in touch with the reality, you take them back to school. In a week, you send them back. In 1 week. So how could it have been your plan? You didn't know that this was coming? For children to be brought, and you close them overnight. Announce at 10 that tomorrow morning at 8, all of you go home. So all the kids are stuck at the bus parks. Whoever didn't have COVID picks it there and takes it to kill their parents. You have not even prepared their parents that they must isolate these kids once they get home. Many parents are down as a result of that. So you are now saying you have sent them because you didn't immunize the teachers. Who should have immunized the teachers? You have an immunization program that is continuing up to now without any clear plan. Just people coming to the lines and with their ndagamutu and they get immunized. You cannot manage a country in that kind of reckless way and the people survive. In fact, I said also at the beginning of this pandemic that it was maybe good that a pandemic like this comes to Uganda. The Baganda say that it is good for the rains to come so that you know who didn't thatch their hearts well. What this COVID pandemic has done is to expose our shambolic public management of this country. Totally.
But on the issue of the vaccine, Dr. Besigye, you know that there has been vaccine hoarding of other countries. We know some countries have bought 5 times more than what they need. You know, India, under the COVAX program that should have made more vaccine, had its own trouble, you know. And so even if you have the money, and I'm told the Ministry of Health has actually placed an order with the money, but you cannot get the vaccine. So that is not really in the hands of the management of Uganda.
Well, I know, and this is why it's regrettable that it is Africa, of all the continents, that only waits for other continents to save it. Of course, they are right to save their people before they come to save these foolish people here. They are right. And that is why I say that this must serve as a wake-up call for all of us. So yes, it's true that people who manufacture those vaccines have been selfish, and we can blame them. They have been selfish, especially what we've been blaming them for is not that they are treating their people, but they should have released, they should not have kept secret
the patents.
The patents should, because this is a public good again, they should have released the patents to South Africa, which has capacity to make these vaccines, to other countries, so that more and more people make the vaccines and save the world. In that regard, they are also foolish, because unless the whole world is safe, they can't be safe. But it is understandable if they want to first safeguard their people. You know, it's natural. What the only thing they should have done on top of doing that is liberalize the knowledge so that others can make the vaccine, because it's also in their own interest that we don't continue generating mutants here, because those mutants are going to go back to them and render their own vaccines useless. But so here, first of all, the fact that we can't have a vaccine cannot be something we say is an excuse, you know, for what we are experiencing. Secondly, it's not true that, you know, we have been having money to buy and we are failing to buy. There was no plan. There was simply no plan, even of managing what has been got. Because what is the plan? If you are talking about teachers, doctors, healthcare workers who have not even been covered, yet I have, you know, I know some people who are even underage that have been vaccinated, because nobody should be vaccinated when you are below 18. This vaccine is only approved for people 18 years and above. Even children have been vaccinated. But the ones who are deserving, that is because you simply have no plan. So we should not, you know, try to always, and this is why, you know, it's sad.
No,
it's sad, you know.
Dr. Besigye, the first time when the almost 1 million doses of vaccine were here, people were even hesitant to go there. I saw, you know, the pandemonium at the end.
You see the hesitancy,
There's a lot of hesitancy.
The hesitancy is what I told you at the beginning. Lack of social capital on the part of government. Everybody suspects them, and for good reasons, which I told you. If you are stealing our money and taking it while we are dying, if you are using soldiers to brutalize us, even in our homes as we are hungry, if you are, you know, yourself making the rules and breaking them, because even as people were locked down, you saw NRM leaders holding big meetings, you know, the Minister of Health herself in a procession, in big crowds, without a mask. So why should I trust that what you are saying is correct? That even you don't want to use vaccines to kill me. So hesitance of people is part of government failure.
Yeah, but on this show, right here, you as a medical doctor and you understand the vaccine, then you are required to build that confidence.
Yes.
Like right now.
Yes, you see, that's exactly what I have been doing. But I have told you that the management of a pandemic is the primary responsibility of the state. I cannot build confidence in a vaccine that is being carried by somebody they fear. Because even if I build confidence in the vaccine, they think this person is out to kill them, and is already killing them. If you are, now when people see those drones, they know they are dead, and they are still taking people, being locked up illegally, tortured illegally, killed illegally. Once you have such a system, there is no way, even if I talk about the goodness of a vaccine, that they will trust the person in whose hands that vaccine is. And that is a challenge. That is why I say that the solution of getting public goods for public benefit in the best way is for people to make sure that they have in place managers of public goods that they trust. And so the struggle that Patrick brings us back to the struggle. When people say don't, and it's laughable, people think that health cannot be politics. Say don't bring politics into the pandemic. A pandemic is the most political thing because, as I have said, it's public goods. And therefore, unless we as a country, unless we as a continent, because why is Africa in the deplorable state in which it is? Mismanagement of public governance. And unless we resolve it, and it must be the responsibility. When I talk like this, some people say, but what would you say? You are opposition. This is not a matter for opposition. I'm government, I'm NRM, I'm FDC. No. This is a matter of either you have effective, accountable governance or you die. The people who are dying for lack of oxygen are not opposition. They are the foolish ones who have been even drumming support, dancing. We have one.
Dr. Besigye, what you have said is not right, because there are people who are right now mourning the loss of their people, and they have died, even if they have followed the right things.
Yes, what I am saying is that everybody is dying. It's not a partisan thing that, maybe even I have money that I want. No, it will go, you'll go down. Because what you need now is not money. What you need is effective delivery of public goods. It's not money. Money will not give you oxygen that you need where you need it. It will not give you expertise you need to manage your condition. It won't. Even those who are going into these public institutions and so on, because the public goods must be publicly and effectively delivered to all. And so this is why I am saying that this matter should unite us against bad governance. It's not in a partisan way. I have been saying, I've been delivering this message, quite for a long time, that we are not yet at a stage where we are divided on ideological basis of what our priorities should be. Because that stage assumes that we have the power to make those decisions. As of now, we don't have the power to make those decisions. That's why our money, that's why, and this is why I've been warning IMF, which is working with illegitimate regimes. Unfortunately, we have gone back to some kind of Cold War politics. Because of the ascendance of China as a world power, the Western Europe is now threatened again, just like the Soviet Union used to be a threat to the Western world. And because of that, they are now anxious to bolster these illegal regimes, really, and keep them provided they do what they want. This is the same Cold War politics, very regrettably, in which we are going to even sink further if we are not careful. Because that's what happened when, you had people like the Mobutu here that was being, supported and so on. When Congo got to the situation where it is under Mobutu, with the support of the West. And this, regrettably, is happening again. And we must be the ones to stand up and assert our will and ensure that we get the survival and development tools and resources that can be sustained in our interest, not in the interest of the external people.
So the pandemic as a public health problem, where we are now, Dr. Besigye, what is it that is going to save us? Is it when we reach that so-called herd immunity?
So this is why, yesterday actually, I together with our colleagues with whom we share these views and struggle together, we presented a demand that in at most a week, we need to see a comprehensive plan in Parliament that creates the institutions and the systems that are needed now for our survival. And these plans in the areas that we have been talking, including how our people who are locked down are going to survive, including what will happen after the lockdown, including the long-term recovery of the country. It is against such a plan that then you can look for funds and monitor how those funds are benefiting the plans. Without that, first of all, anybody who gives us money is doing us a disservice. Giving us money again to be taken to the people's homes is doing us a disservice and is inimical to the people of Uganda and friendly to those against the people of Uganda. So we must have a plan quickly.
To have institutions.
Secondly, yes. Secondly, we must, even as that is going on, think as Ugandans how we can and should assert ourselves. Because even as we say that, we know that they will not heed. They will likely, because they have total contempt for the people of Uganda. So they will not care. You say, we have been, those are their talks. So it's up to the people of Uganda now to prepare and assert their will. If you see what is happening even now, yesterday in Sudan, the people of Sudan are protesting very strongly. The people of Sudan are, they changed their government of Bashir through their own effort. Yesterday, they started protesting against a new loan that has come from IMF that has immediately caused more suffering for the people because it was on some conditions that have created immediate suffering for many people. And they are out protesting. So we must know that our situation will change through our own assertive effort. And even as this week goes by, we are going to be communicating with our various leaderships. And in a united way, this is, as I have said, not a partisan matter. It's not a matter of FDC, a matter of NUP, a matter which are sometimes kept conflicting as things are getting worse. We all must unite and say, no, our lives matter, and we are not going to allow this to continue. So this 1 week that we need that plan must also be a week within which we ourselves plan to assert our will. We must formulate a plan.
All right.
So that if they don't, we also show them that we have influence. Thirdly, this is a trying time. We call upon every Ugandan to help every other Ugandan. We must pull each other to survive. If you have, some bunches of matoke in your garden, share with your neighbors. This is the time to be compassionate. If you have some little money, let's share at a private level, but also at an organized level. The civil society organizations that we have that deal with relief of situations that are like this, this is the time for them to be active.
Okay, retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, I want to thank you so much for your time. Maybe in a few seconds, your parting shot to the people of Uganda, if you could just look directly into them.
First of all, thank you for giving the opportunity to share views with our people in Uganda. As I have said over and over again, it is up to us to survive or to die. And we can survive. We should survive. God has been so gracious to us, and that's why we have not had such a terrible situation up to now, giving us a chance to organize and to work towards a better outcome. Let's do that. Let's not just keep on lamenting. Let's organize. Survival is for the organized, not for the disorganized. We must organize, and we must unite our voice to demand better. I thank you, and I pray that God keeps you safe, and that you also do whatever is necessary to keep safe. Keep your mask on. Wash your hands all the time to avoid touching the virus and putting it on yourselves. Don't touch your eyes, don't touch your... When you are sick, don't panic. Stay at home, because over 80% of people won't need to see a doctor to get out of COVID. You can get out of it at home. Just remain calm, take a rest, take a lot of fluids, especially hot drinks, drink tea, drink soups, drink whatever hot water you can, take vitamins, and you will be well.
All right.
If you have problems with breathing, please contact a doctor. I wish you well. God bless you.
Thank you so much, retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. You have spoken as a medical doctor, but also you have spoken as a politician and also as a senior citizen. If I can pick something from Dr. Besigye's submission, is that we Ugandans have a role. We need some kind of civic competence so that we can demand for better, because yes, we deserve better. And a friend of mine wrote a book called Adapt or Die. This is the moment that we need to adapt. Because if we adapt, then we can be able to survive. I don't think we are facing an existential threat of some sort of an apocalypse. No, we will survive. Good night, and God bless Uganda.